welcome back to Between Two Vulns. I'm Marcello.
And I'm Dan.
And where we continue to monitor the impending AI apocalypse and potential return of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
What do we got today?
Well,
Now!
things are accelerating very quickly.
Yes.
As of like 2 hours
2 hours ago. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
5.7 just dropped with some amazing benchmarks. It's a very exciting product. They focused like a lot on practical usability for coding tasks and the common use cases for LLMs in general.
Yeah.
Claude 3.5 was phenomenal at writing code.
Yeah.
So I think we are very quickly approaching the apocalypse of software engineering. I mean, I'm going to put it at like 2027-ish is
Yeah.
when
I'd say
consistent-
max, honestly, max 2027. Yeah, for sure.
I think this is the year the agents start getting deployed. 2026 is when the adoption rates start increasing quite rapidly, and by the start of 2027, I think the jobs will be harder to come by.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think this year is going to be mainly used for organizations to determine like how to actually deploy agents effectively.
Right.
And like how to start building out their agents, quote unquote, like
Right.
internally. And then next year is where like rubber's going to meet the road and shit's going to hit the fan, so to speak, where like agents are going to be deployed. Things are going to start
Yeah.
progressing really rapidly.
Because not only did we just get Claude, we just got Grok 3 as well, which
Yeah.
is beating O1 on benchmarks, not significantly, but it's a step above what the other benchmarks for the older models hit. So I mean, this AI race is just skyrocketing right
Yeah.
now. Like it's increasing at an increasing speed. Now, on the topic of benchmarks, Google released what is this called? The SWE Lancer.
Oh,
which is
was it
software
Google?
engineering
Wait,
Lancer.
was it Google or OpenAI?
I'm sorry, that was OpenAI.
Oh, OpenAI. Okay.
They released a benchmark that essentially takes real-life coding tasks on, I think, Upwork.com,
Yeah.
which is like a freelance coding platform where you can just sign up to do some code work for somebody and they pay you.
Yep.
They took some real-life benchmarks from that site and then gave it to all these models to see how much these models would earn if they actually performed all these tasks themselves. Now, in what you're looking at on the screen, it's a little confusing as to what you're looking at here, but if you just look right here, you'll see the benchmark was $1 million worth of contracts, essentially, and Claude 3.5 actually beat O1 and everything else, GPT-4, all of them, at performing these real-life coding tasks. So 3.5 Sonnet got $58,000 out of a potential $236,000.
That's 3.5. The 3.7, I'd be actually curious to see this
I would bet it's
benchmark
a
run again.
significant increase.
Yeah, probably.
We're in the age where these AI bots are actively doing economically viable tasks.
Yep.
$58,000 by just running an AI on a mechanical Turk for coding, essentially.
Yeah. And that's a 24% earn rate according to the the other.
Yeah. So they categorize out in different categories. Like one is management tasks, one's front-end development, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Either way, Claude is getting about 25% of these tasks right, up to 50% for some of them, and just making $150,000. And I'm sitting here going like, maybe we should just quit and just just run a couple bots.
Write an Upwork bot.
Yeah, just an Upwork bot, make $150,000 for hitting enter on a keyboard. Sounds kind of nice.
That is definitely wild. But there is some controversy on this paper though, and with the data set. But specifically in regards to a lot of the way the benchmark was taken, I think. Like this Hacker News article had some really interesting insights.
Yeah, so he says that a lot of the bugs, the way they did the benchmark was they took a bunch of Upwork completed contracts, then reintroduced the bug that was in the code already, but they didn't necessarily do a one-to-one representation. They ended up like just doing some approximations of what the bug was. So there's some question about the veracity of the benchmark itself. I think it'll improve over time, and I'm sure they'll get it right with just like the actual bugged code rather than trying to reproduce it.
So it's not completely bulletproof this paper, but it is very interesting though.
It's
nonetheless.
because 2 years ago this didn't exist at all. There is no
Correct.
bot that you could just give a contract to and say, "Hey, go perform this," and it hits 25% accuracy on that contract. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it is pretty nuts. There's also a new Q chip from Microsoft, which is also very interesting. Sort of in the same vein. I think this was in direct response to Google's quantum computing release, which was last month, I think, or at least a couple months ago. But basically, Microsoft came up with a new quantum chip as well, which outdid its performance. It also, if I recall correctly from the article, they came up with some sort of new manufacturing process or new architecture to build this, which dramatically increased performance. So it's really interesting that we're seeing like two things going in parallel here. We're seeing the acceleration of AI, and we're seeing the acceleration of quantum computing.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if these things converge, in which case all bets are off at that point.
This is the holy trifecta of future technology. We have room temperature semiconductors, we have quantum computing, and we have fusion energy. Fusion energy, France just released their experiment where they got fusion energy running for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Fusion energy is more or less free energy. Like it's as close to free energy as we have physically today. So the intersection here, when you have incredibly cheap energy fed into incredibly powerful quantum computers that can take advantage of superconductors, especially like room temperature superconductors, to increase the speed of them, is an explosion of growth. And we're probably not
far off,
more than a few years away from
but
this.
especially, it goes to, especially with like these AI co-scientists and stuff, I'd be interested to see like with the acceleration in terms of like scientific discoveries, towards like things like fusion and stuff like that. Like I wonder if like the timelines will dramatically accelerate once these AI co-scientists become very popular, which they will, because like if we're talking like diminishing a academic researchers or scientists timeline by years, I mean, they're obviously going to be adopted.
Right, it's a self-reinforcing cycle, and we're just right at the cusp. It's very exciting and scary.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for this episode, and we'll hand it off to Ethan to talk about the latest vulnerabilities and insights into the Hunter platform.
Yep.
Hi Hunters, my name's Ethan Silvest. Today we're going to be looking at some of the new model format vulnerability stuff that we've been doing. We've made some updates to the site, and we've actually published some examples for you guys to look at and hopefully give you a better idea of what we're looking for, and hopefully it'll help. So first off, if you go to huntr.com, you can find the MFV program either by going to bounties, and you see at the top section we have model file formats. You can see all the different targets that we have. And then of course go to submit report. You can kind of choose now between open source vulnerabilities and model file format vulnerabilities. We are concerned with that. And you can see now that we've actually made a couple of updates to the form. So one, we've uploaded some example reports that we're going to go through in a sec, but also just to the form itself, give you an idea of how you might actually submit a report. First, let's choose a target. Let's say job-lib. Then, of course, you'll have a title of whatever your vulnerability is. But we've also added this new Hugging Face POC upload section. So again, for model format vulnerabilities, we're looking for payloads that can be put into a model and get past our Hugging Face scanner. And so now we've actually given you a place to upload your Hugging Face repositories with your payloads in them. So assuming that you go to Hugging Face, again, our scanner goes off on any public Hugging Face repositories. So if you go to Hugging Face, I have one set up here. This is public. You can see the Protect AI scanner. That is only our scanner. Okay, so I've seen some confusion. ClamAV and the HF Pickle Scan, those aren't our scanners. We're not worried about those. We're worried about the Protect AI scanner. Your payload needs to see here. It says no issue. That's essentially passing the scanner. So your payload does need to get past that. And again, to upload your actual POC. You want to go to, these steps will be listed on the form that you can read, but just to go through them real quick, you go to settings of your repository, make sure that it's public, and then you want to enable gated user access. And then once you have that, you can set it to manual or review, so you can add people to it. And what you want to add is the Protect AI-bot. You add this account to, or you essentially give us access to see your repository, and then and then once that's set up, you can send us the link, and then so now we're actually going to go through the example reports that we've set up for you guys, and to give you an idea of what you actually put in the description field. So if you go to the form and you see this example section. There's actually 3 that we've written. So this first one here, these are really simple. Ignore this bounty. These are really old vulnerabilities that everybody knows about. We just created reports about them to help you get an idea of what you want to write. So like this one, for example, is the classic pickle deserialization. We've got basically the same thing but in PyTorch, and then the Keras lambda layer vulnerability. So each one of these gives you a pretty good idea of what a report should look like when you submit. So first, this summary here is kind of like, what is the vulnerability? For this example, it's pickle deserialization. When the model gets loaded, it executes a payload. That's kind of what you want to describe in the first section. But then the most important part is the POC, proof of concept. So we're looking for 2 different things here, and the way that you can kind of break it up is between the attacker steps and the victim steps. So first off, so you've uploaded your payload to Hugging Face and provided us the link, but we do need to see how you've actually created that model file, right? So if you just give us the file, we're not really going to know how you created it, where the payload is, how you put the payload into the model file. And this also helps us decide what duplicates are. So if someone were to upload the same exact steps of creating the model that you did, that would be a duplicate. So that's kind of how we decide that. So yeah, this whole section right here is, you can kind of think of it as the attacker steps. How does the attacker create the actual model file? What are the steps, or what trick is it that you're hiding the payload in? And that's kind of all you really need to do for that. But then there's also, of course, the victim steps. So those are completely different. You kind of have to think about, like, or remember that the victim is on a completely different machine. They are not the attacker, so you kind of have to think of them as just blank. They're not knowing anything. And really the steps should just be loading the model file, or actually in this example, the Keras lambda layer, loading the model and then running inference. So there's 2 different kinds of vulnerabilities, either on load or when you run the model or perform inference. So yeah, that's really all the victim steps should be, is just either loading the model or loading and running the model. But it's very helpful for you to show how to actually do that with the library. For example, in Pickle, you do pickle.load, PyTorch, torch.load, and so on, right? So just outlining those steps and how a victim is affected by the malicious model. And then after that, really, it's just kind of giving a blurb on the impact of the model. What actually can you perform with this model, whether it's arbitrary code execution, overwriting or deleting files, maybe a DOS, kind of give us an idea of what you can actually do with the vulnerability. And yeah, so that's, hopefully you could, again, these are public, so you guys can go through these and just kind of get an idea of what your report should be looking like for model format vulnerabilities. And also, each one has a Google Colab link. And those are actually very, very helpful, because not only for us, but also for you. Google Colab gives you all the tools that you need. You don't really, for most model format vulnerabilities, you do not need to have them on your local machine at all. You can do almost everything just through Google Colab. So it makes it easy for you guys to test, but it also makes it very easy for us to replicate, because if you send us one of these files, I can just go through it and it'll basically execute exactly the same for me. So that kind of removes a lot of the pain points that we have on Hunter, the back and forth and stuff. But yeah, so very, very helpful. And yeah, that should be all you need to know for writing an MFV report. And yeah, looking forward to seeing some submissions. And of course, you guys have questions, go on to Discord and hit us up. And yeah, I think that's all from me. Looking forward to seeing all y'all reports.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. We'll see you next month for another episode, where I'm sure by then, hopefully, maybe we will have fusion energy.
We're going to have fusion, we're going to have quantum
Yeah,
computing.
everything. We'll have everything by next episode. The next episode is going to be wild. We're just going to be in a completely different timeline. Yeah, space and time will shatter. In the meantime, though, you can use your quantum AI chips or whatever you got to smash it and like the subscribe button.
Yeah, I think we're going to make an agent for this so that you don't even have to do this anymore.
We will actually publish a Hunter agent that just smashes the
smash the like and subscribe, but only for these videos.
Only for this channel specifically. Yes, we might want to get on that. That would be a good idea. All right, see you next time.